If you learned anything from last video, I hope it's that you know that I love passage 1 and passage 2. I like how predictable it is, and I know that you're going to save a lot of time on passage 1 and passage 2. As always, the speaker in passage 1 is never going to agree with the speaker in passage 2, and likewise, they're always going to disagree, always. This dividing line is our reminder of how much they're going to disagree. So we always read for theme. So theme of passage 1. We can assume that it's going to be an opposite theme of passage 2. We always want to predict, actively read, underline. If you haven't had that hammered home yet, then I don't know what I'm doing wrong. In all of our previous videos, we were predicting the questions and we were making it really easy to look back because we were actively reading. So we're going to read passage 1 and passage 2 for theme to understand how to answer the questions. Ready to read? All right, did we mark the text? I did. Douglas, the theme. America is organized by free states and slave states. Some states are free states, some slaves are slave states. And that is determined, he says, by our founding fathers, that each state has a right of sovereignty. It can govern itself. It can determine whether or not to have slavery or not. Lincoln, on the other hand, is saying, you kind of have my words twisted a little bit. I did say that there is peace about slavery until you try and spread it. Now, one thing I was kind of noticing was that Douglas was really going into like increasing, extending, acquiring, doubling, increasing, extending, acquiring, doubling. And Lincoln shoots back by saying, you have peace around slavery until you try and spread it over more territory. And when you try and spread it over more territory, that's when the problems come in. So that's our theme. Let's have a look on how we did. I'm predicting the questions. 32. In the first paragraph of passage 1, the main purpose of Douglas's discussion of the growth of the territory and population in the United States, as I mentioned, I noticed he was really talking a lot about the growth of the United States. Doubling population, acquiring, extended, increasing. So the reason why, the main purpose that he brought that in, was it to provide context for Douglas's defense of continued expansion. That doesn't match our theme. That isn't really what his whole, what he was talking about. Suggests that the division into free and slave states does not endanger the Union. He was very much talking about that, so we're going to keep that one. Imply that Lincoln is unaware to the basic facts concerning the country. Again, much too broad. Or D, account for the image of the United States as powerful and admirable. As much as I like that one, we have to stay true to our theme, and the answer, the best choice answer would be B. 33. What does passage 1 suggest about the U.S. government's provisions for the institution of slavery as framed in the Constitution as passage 1? What does passage 1 suggest about the government's provisions for the institution of slavery? They included no means for reconciling differences between free states and slave states. Perhaps that's true, but I'd have to read outside the text to answer that, to choose that answer. We're not reading outside the text, so no. They anticipated the Union's expansion into Western territories. No. They provided a good basic structure that does not need to be changed. Doesn't that sound exactly what Douglas would say? Doesn't that sound exactly what Douglas did say? Or D, they were founded on an assumption that slavery was necessary for economic growth. Douglas said C. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer in the previous question? Bet you anything we already have that underlined. So we're looking for them to say, does not need to be changed. Founding fathers said, here's the basic structure, does not need to be changed. Lines 10 through 16, we have to Earth. We have extended our territory from the Mississippi to the Pacific Ocean. We have acquired the Floridas and the Texas and other territories. I'm just seeing how far we're going. Earth, yeah, that's it. Sufficient to double our geographical extent. We have increased in population and wealth and in power beyond any example on Earth. We're extending. Yes, that's true, but that doesn't answer anything having to do with the founding fathers. So I'm going to get rid of A, or sorry, right here, the founding fathers. Get rid of A. B, lines 25 to 27. Again, we're looking for the founding fathers having a good basic structure that does not need to be changed. I now make it. I now come back to the question, why cannot this union exist forever, divided into free and slave states as our fathers made it? Word for word, I'm choosing B. Continuing on. As used in 67, element most nearly means. Don't look at the answers. We're already in passage 2. The word element, every other kid in your testing room is going to think it has something to do with the periodic table. I promise you. We're going to think that. As used in line 67, element most nearly means. Has it been so with this concept? This word? Just basic, simple, this concept, this word of slavery, has it always been so with this maybe definition? So let's go concept, word, definition. Ingredient, is that a concept or a word? No. Environment, concept, word, definition? No. Factor, is that a concept? Factor, yes. Quality, concept, word, definition? No. Factor. 36. Based on passage 2, again, see, look how quickly we move out of passage 1. Based on passage 2, Lincoln would be most likely to agree with which claim about the controversy over slavery. Let's remind ourselves of our theme. This is a theme question. Peace about slavery until you try and spread it over more territory. So based on passage 2, Lincoln would most likely agree with which claim about the controversy over slavery. It can be ended only if northern states act unilaterally to abolish slavery throughout the United States. That isn't what he said. B, it would be if attempts to introduce slavery to regions where it was not practiced were abandoned. That's what he said. C, it has been exasperated by the ambiguity of laws regulating the hold of slaves. It has been exasperated by the ambiguity of laws. He never even said anything about the existing laws. It is fueled in part by differences in religion and social values from state to state. I understand why some people would choose that, but he said word for word, it would stop, it would abate if attempts to introduce slavery to regions where it was not practiced were abandoned.